Hello YouTube artists, I'm Kelly Hernig and welcome to In the Studio. Today I'm going to create an abstract flower with you. Now this is the book that I've been studying, the Creative Abstract Watercolor by Kate Rebecca Leach, and I have really enjoyed going through it step by step. Here is the flower that is the project. It's called Striking Bloom, but for me it's not very abstract. Again, I'm trying to find what represents me in here. This seems very folk art. It didn't really seem like a lot of her projects, and I really don't like symmetry where both sides are the same. So I'm going to do something a little different. However, it's because of me going through this book and discovering the marks that I like to make and playing with different colors. That is why it's become part of this abstract watercolor book. This is a fantastic book. I have shared my journey so far. If you just look for abstract watercolor, you should be able to find those videos. For my project today, I'm going to be using a photo reference of poppies that I took. Our neighbors have the best poppies, and every year I go down there and I take a bunch of pictures. This one I loved because of the upside down quality of it. You can see the stem is very beautiful. Then it kind of goes to a flat spot on the poppy, which I think is what really drew me to this photo, is that stem and that it's the underneath of the poppy we're actually seeing. But what I saw like a tutu skirt, really, in the flower. And so I thought that would be fun to play with and add abstract marks. So that is what we're going for this project. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but you're along for the journey. We'll try it together and hopefully it will work out. So if you want to grab a bunch of oranges, grab a piece of paper, let's try this together. There's going to be 3 steps. So the first step will be filling in the color with just washes and trying to add texture with splashes. The second step will be adding another layer of wet on dry. And then the third one will be about adding marks. And for that, I'm probably going to use my Uniball Signo pen. For my sketchbook, I am using the Venencia by Fabriano. Here are the particulars. So it is 90 pounds, 9 by 12, and I am really loving this Fabriano paper. It says drawing paper, but you can see I have a little bit of ripple in my pages, but not a lot. So every night whenever I'm finished, I lay it down, fold it up, and then I just put another book on top of it, and it seems to be flattening really well. The colors, now I just want you to know these are the brightest colors that I have ever used. We're going to see how that goes. I'm going to try to mute these down because they are intense. But I wanted to try to match that photo because I actually love the color of them, and poppies are one of my favorite flowers because of the bright oranges. I will have everything listed down below in the video description box for what I'm using. These are all Daniel Smith colors. I am using Nickel Azo Yellow, Aussie Red Gold, Vermilion, Deep Scarlet, Raw Umber Violet, and Undersea Green. You can see up here I played a little with the mixes to see how they would mix, and I was perfectly fine with this. Now this yellow is really on the green side, but I know that I'm not going to use it full strength like this. Look, I'm already changing it to being muted, right? But I wanted the bright yellow in just so that I would have that as a nice shiny spot. Here is how I have it drawn in my book. I have the stem going down, and then I just added a stem on the bottom here. And then I have the poppy taking up this much of my page because that's where I want to explore, and that's where a lot of my marks are going to be, is on this poppy. So I know that I need it big enough so that I can add some fun shapes. I have my watercolors here in this little tin. I have a little vanity tray. I will list that in the bottom too, just for mixing in case I want to mix. And I'm going to try to bring you up here so you can get closer while I'm painting. So can you see my drawing a little better? All I have really is I have a weird shape here, which I just kind of copied off the picture. And then I just made my bloom take up a lot of space. For my initial washes, I'm going to be using the Da Vinci Casino number 2. It's a quill brush, which means it holds a lot more water here. I would normally use my number 8 long round, and I'll be using this for details, but it doesn't hold as much water as this quill brush. So I want it to be really nice and full and watery as we go. I don't want to keep having to dip into water. You can always wet the page first, but I usually don't like to do that. Okay, I'm grabbing my Azo Yellow first, and I'm going to add a lot of water to that because I already know that I just want it to lay on there. And I've got a lot of water. Kind of got the shape that I want it. I want this little abstract shape because for me that's part of the fun, is having this shape up there. Okay, now I'm going to start with yellow, or with my oranges, and I'm just going to kind of go down the line. So Azo Yellow is quite bold. You can see that. It's a really beautiful orange. There we go. Can you believe I just put that much orange on there? I know. Okay, so I want to leave some white marks because I like the white marks of the page. For me, I find abstract easier with that. Before this dries, I want to come in with a little more Azo and just make it a little bolder. I'm kind of keeping my eye on it so that I know when to add some splashes. I do want these colors to kind of play nice together, so I'm kind of mingling them. Azo is a very pushy color, so you just saw it kind of go down the line here. Okay, I'm going to splash. I'm splashing for texture. I'm going to dip into the vermilion here. Vermilion is kind of a thick color, so I want to really wash it out on my palette first. I want this petal back here to be vermilion. I want all my petals to kind of mingle, so you'll see that I'm not really waiting for them to dry or anything. I'm letting them butt up right next to one another because I like when the colors interplay with each other. Okay, that looks nice. I'm going to grab some vermilion here. Wow, you can see that the Aussie is kind of pushing its way up, so I want to keep dabbing a little bit in there. I'm going to take a little bit of deep scarlet because I want to see a little bit of separation between this petal and that back petal. Okay, just water on my brush. Let's get this petal filled in here. Okay, deep scarlet now. I don't mind when my pieces kind of pop out like that from the wetness, but if you do, you just gotta come in here with a paper towel and right along the edge. So lay your paper towel right at the edge and kind of, I use the back of my brush a lot of times to kind of pick it up. And you can see it just picked a little bit of that up, but I kind of like when they mingle like that. I'm really loving this part coming in there. I'm gonna take a little bit of water on my brush and just soften that a little bit. And I don't like this mark here because of where it is in my petal. I want to make it a little more filled in. I like those two. Okay, I'm gonna go right back into my Aussie again. I've got a little puddle going there. I'm gonna let that run down. Then I'm gonna go into my vermilion. When I flatten my brush like this, I am letting the brush do the work, right? So it's just letting the water go through. Okay, I had a little camera malfunction, so this edge is really drying fast. I want to make sure that I get a wet edge on there. Okay, I'm going to go into Deep Scarlet. I like that a lot. I'm going to touch into a little bit of the raw umber. It's raw umber violet. And I love this coloration. Wow, that's pretty. Okay, a little more vermilion. Let's take it down to this petal here. All right, we got a little edge here. I'm going to do deep scarlet again. Ooh, I like the way that deep scarlet came out. And you can see I didn't leave any white. I'm going to be paying for that later. I wanted to kind of continue that, so I'm going to try to lift some. Oh, is that pretty? Okay, I'm going to take my brush and see if I can lift any. And no, I'm not going to be able to. This vermilion is really bright. Splashing. Isn't that already beautiful? You can see the shape. And look how bright this looks, and this is just letting it come together naturally. I'm so excited already. And I still have the rest of this to fill. So that's awesome. I'm going to come in here with just a little bit more of the nickel azo yellow. Let's just add a little bit more. Because I went this bright, I didn't expect to go that bright, believe me, but I'm liking it a lot. Aussie red, sorry. And I like that this is darker than that. That's awesome. Just trying to form that petal. That is the main petal here, so I want it to be different and have that kind of hard edge up there. If I didn't, I could just take my brush and kind of soften it, and I can always soften it later too, but for right now I want that hard edge. Let's go into a little bit of vermilion here. Okay, gotta remember to save some spaces. Let's get rid of that one. And then to deep scarlet. Okay, I'm gonna soften right here. Let's add a little bit more there. So I've got the hard edge up here and the hard edge down here. That's awesome. Okay, I want to make this one back here the same color as that, which was a little bit of the deep scarlet. And in fact, let's see. Let me see if I can add a little bit of this deep scarlet there and to the front here. So what I did was put my brush in water, then blot it on a paper towel. So now I'm just going to kind of pull to soften that. Okay, I like that. And I'm going to splash. Okay, I want that same kind of red over here. So I'm going to do that with, I know I did vermilion first. And I want to dip some of that azo gold into it, azo yellow. And then we're going to dip some of that deep scarlet. Okay, this side over here is a little darker, so the sun is really like coming down here. So all of this underneath is going to be quite shaded, and that's what I really liked about the photo, and you saw the photo. So I've got all these leaves in here, or all these petals in here that are going to be really dark like this. So we've got the main one here. Let's go, I think I want to just go to deep scarlet with that one. And maybe a little bit of the vermilion at the top up here. Let me do a touch of the Aussie first just to get that brightness at the initial top, and then I can go into these other colors. That's awesome. Okay, I want to leave a line, so let's see. I'm trying to connect the line right through here. I'm going to go into that red violet. The raw umber violet. Let's just make this bottom of this petal quite dark. You know, when you vary too, so vary your sizes and your shapes, you can see no two petals are the same. And by doing that, you're already adding a lot of interest without doing a lot of work, right? So try to remember that. If you can make it different, do it. I like that this is richer over here in the orange. So we got the in-between here now, between these two petals. So I'm going to come in with some Aussie red. Go into the vermilion. And deep scarlet at the bottom here, definitely. There we go. Oh, I like that. Touch into that raw umber violet that I love. There we go. Look at that. It doesn't take me much to get me excited whenever I'm painting. This part here I don't really care for, so let's add some vermilion and get a different color in there. Because I'm using the raw umber violet, I don't want it to feel like it's dying. I still want it to be very colorful. So I've got to be careful with that raw umber violet. That's better. Okay, I'm going to go into my azo yellow here. I've even got my stem up here varied, so it's thicker here, it goes to a thin spot. I like my stems to have a little bit of variety in them. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to add a little bit of that yellow down here. And you can see I have a wild puddle up here. Let's get that off of there. That's better. I'm going to go to my undersea green now. And I'm just going to add a little bit into here. It doesn't make a pretty green, it makes kind of a dull green, but I'm okay with that. We've got the brightness of the flower. Because it's wet, that's why I'm adding it now. You can see this first step. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. I want you to let me know which step you're going to like the best. So this is step one, just filling it in with beautiful color and really establishing a shape. That's all we're looking for. I don't want it to feel like a poppy. This is about experimenting in my sketchbook and becoming a little more comfortable with marks and this kind of thing. So I really like this fat mark over here, but I think it's too fat for where the others are. So I'm going to just take a little bit of that away. I like that better. And you can see now, if you follow this shape, I've kind of got a shape of whites going through here. And I'm okay with that. Remember, these are the under petals, so we will come back and add some white to them. Now for me to go to the next step, which is wet on dry, this has to totally be dry. I can tell you though, I'm loving these little bits of edges down here, so why don't I add some more? It's just like giving it a little frilly edge, and I think that's neat. I'm going to do that over here as well. I like this little edge here. To me, it's playful. It adds a little bit of interest. you're like, oh, look, it's a frayed edge. I think that's enough. Let's do a little bit here. This is dried overnight and I am loving the texture. Let me bring it up so you can see it. Look at all those glorious splashes. I love this area right there, that little dark area with the fringe, just so beautiful. Here's another fringe area. I love how the colors just kind of melded together. You don't really see where one ends and the other one starts. And I think that's the beautiful thing about picking colors that are really kind of close to one another in value and tone and intensity. It gives a lot of harmony when you use colors like that and an overall pleasing aesthetic. I mean, I love it the way it is already, and if it wasn't because I was doing art marks, I definitely would probably just leave this in my journal like this. I probably would darken my stem, but then I would call it a day because I already love it where it is. But because it's an abstract art mark piece, I want to push it a little further. What we're going to do now is add wet on dry. When you're doing wet on dry, I like to kind of feather the edges a little bit to make them kind of blend in what we've already done. And I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to be using this Princeton Aqua Elite brush for all of these wet on dry additions because I like the point that it has. It's not too pointy, but yet I can still get a lot of variety in my strokes. Because I have that little bright band of color up here, I want to emphasize that. I do know that. So I'm going to take, let's see, I think I want to use the deep scarlet because I don't really have any deep scarlet up there, so it's going to stand out a little bit better. Where the petals are, so I've got 3 main petals here. Where they go in between the petals, those are going to be deeper spots. So I'm going to go thin here and fill that in with color. And then let's see, the petal goes up here. I'm going to go deeper here. I'm going to go back to thin. I've got deeper here. I am going to splash these as well. I do want them to have some kind of texture, not a lot. I want those pretty precise. I'm going to come in here with a little bit of the Aussie red gold. Let's see if that shows up. Wanting to just add a little bit of circles here. I like the little texture that it has, so can you see those little kind of circle shapes? I'm enhancing them, but I don't want them to really stand out. So when that dries, it's going to be there, but not really so much that you see them in a bold capacity. I'm going to switch to the vermilion here. Well, actually, I'm just going to use this mix here. It's a pretty mix of all the colors. So let's see what happens there. Yeah, like that. I'm going to add the circles on the main 3 petals because I want them to kind of stand out, but yet I want them to be uniform so that I know that they're kind of the ones in front and all of this fringed area is in the back. Remember, I'm still wanting it to look like a flower. I just want it to look a little more abstract than what it is. I'm going to go into vermilion for this section here. On this one, I want to go a little darker, so I'm going to do the deep scarlet because remember, it's lighter on this side and it goes darker over here. So let me pull some of that deep scarlet for these circles. I don't really have any marks here, so I'm going to make them. Okay, and these areas here, I want to kind of bring your eye from the fringed area and then have it go up to the top. So we're going to add some darks in there, and I'm going to use the raw umber violet. Let's see if that's too dark or if it's the perfect color. I'm not real sure. I'm looking for where the fringe kind of goes up. Ooh, that's pretty. So I like this little area here. It's just really defining it just a little bit. And I've got a lot of fringes here, so I love this white space here, so let's really create a pretty one here. We go quite large because we got that nice white space. I'm going to just lay my brush here to kind of soften, and then I'm going to blot that. So I want it just a little softer. Same with this one. I think I got the color too hard. It's not as transparent as I want it. I've got a little edge here. Let's see what we can do with that. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Those are really nice shapes in there. They give it a lot of like the wrinkled shape of a poppy. Let's work on the green of the stem. It has to be much deeper. So I'm going to just go in now with undersea green. Got my little puddle here. Now I have to, of course, keep my hands out of it. Good luck with that. I want it to be deeper as it comes down. And I want it deeper up here. I'm going to take water on my brush, just water. So what I'm actually doing is kind of pulling all the water off so that there's a little bit on there. And I'm just going to soften this edge right here so that it bleeds a little bit. So bleeds just means it kind of fans over. And I'm going to apply more color here. I'm looking for values, right? So I want it to be dark, light, and medium all in one area. I don't like that going up there. All right, making it interesting where it comes next to the flower. Then this back side is really all in shadow here. I want to see if I add a little bit of this nickel azo yellow in there. Let's see if we can get that top just a little bolder, because I'm losing the yellow up there and I definitely want to see that. Need more yellow. Just water. Okay, we got to do the same on the bottom stem down here. And that I really want just darker. I don't care about the having the bright spot on there, because really it's under the flower and it's shaded quite darkly. Quite dark, I should say. Okay, I like that a lot. I especially just really love that area right there. It doesn't take much, right? So I'm going to take a little bit of that green now, almost full strength. You see how much darker it is than the puddle here? I'm going to go right around that edge and make it nice and dark. All right. Okay, up in this area now where I have this really dark band. So I already know what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to outline it in white. So I want to pull some shapes coming down from it. And let's see, I want to use, let's try the Aussie gold, the Aussie red gold. And I like this mark here, so let's see if we can just, I'm thinking about just kind of soft petals in different heights. And notice that I'm kind of keeping them in the direction of the petal here, so I'm following that. Sorry about that. I'm following that direction. Tiny one here, and I really like one here. Okay, this one I want to color in. This one. Let's see, I kind of like them colored because I can outline them or not. It just depends. That's kind of fun. Let's do a darker one over here. Okay, we got this petal here. Let's do an Aussie gold one over here. It's almost adding like wrinkles to it. I'm going to take a little bit of the, let's see, the deep scarlet, I think. Cover up that white mark. I'm just looking for some natural areas that I could deepen and darken. That's all I'm doing. Kind of like that. Definitely going to splash that. Don't want it too heavy. And I want this petal to be behind that. So I'm going to take, again, some of that deep scarlet. And I'm loving this darkness right here. So let's just deepen it in. I'm going to do a little bit right on this, on the front petal edge. Just water on my brush. Let's soften this one out. Okay, I want to add some of that deep scarlet down here as well. All I'm trying to do is give it another value, so look for just something that I can bump up or make more brilliant. And this one I have a nice line right there. So let's deepen this just a little bit more. Just water. This petal here is kind of blank, so I'm going to take some vermilion. Let's see what we can add there. I like the darkness up here, so let's see if we can just add some drips. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the dark marks. So what comes next is the white. I'm going to blow dry this to make sure everything is really dry, and then I'll be back. I am using my Uniball Signo pen in the UM153. That's the size that I like. I also have a white card next to me just so that I can clean my tip by moving it around. You'll see me too, I like to wipe the tip on my finger, especially as I go. I will probably pick up paint because I press way too hard. It's supposed to be softer, but usually I press harder. I'm going to just work from the top down and let's see how that goes. What I'm going to do is start up here in that yellow area because I really like that light area, and I'm going to look for those tips. That creates such a cool shape. I like that. You see how much more interest it adds to that center. Remember, I really love that green coming down, and this is just giving a lot of space to that, and I like that a lot. I'm going to add lines in here. And I want to kind of go with the flow. So the petal is going this way, so I'm going to do my lines this way. As it kind of changes, I'm going to change the direction of my line slightly. This one comes this way, so I'm going to start here. I like that. Okay, on these, I just want to add a dot at the end. this little one here. I'm sorry my camera cut off and you missed me outlining some of these bottom areas here. And it was just, I was following the shapes of the color, and here I wanted to really accentuate those dark areas. I really like how that forms a nice little element and kind of drags your eye to remember my favorite part up here. So I've got to fill in these little areas here. And I've been thinking about these little loops up here, and I really kind of like them. I want to extend them, but I don't want to add color. Remember these up here, I added the color in. I did the color first and then I outlined. So up here, I think I just want to add the white. I'm just going to kind of go between the shapes. Maybe not even everywhere. Just like that. And I'm going to add the dots too, but I'm not going to fill them in. I kind of like just that they're empty there. Try not to run into those circles there. I like that because it just adds another element that's kind of clear. I don't want to really accentuate the circles of this. I kind of like the linear lines that I've kind of got going here. I want to take this up around there, just to kind of connect it so that you have a nice little area here. This area I can probably connect down here. I like the dark little area over here. I want to do something up here. This one just seems a little naked to me, so I'm going to come in with a dark, let's see, maybe some of the dark red. And right next to that one, I think I'm just going to extend a little bit of a shape here. A little bit of color. And then I'll move to a different section while that's drying. I got to remind myself of that. All right. In this area here, I want to kind of bring these dots up. I like the way the dots are going up here. So on this area here, I like this little white space, so let's see what we can do with that. Kind of dragging your eye upward. And again, I like the dots, so let's carry up the dots. Let's just do that around there. Let's go down here. Whoops. There's a circle there, so let's skip the circle center. Then in this one here, we've got some areas here. So I'm trying to figure out where the petal edge is, and it's right here. So let's go upward. That way this kind of connects down to that. That looks nice. I like this edge here. So let's go here. Trying to see, is that enough on the edges? And I think it really is. I like the way that it looks. I might put a little circle inside of some of the bigger areas here. just to continue with the dots. Looking for all my dots here. I'm asking myself right now, do I want to define these 3 petals? Or do I like it kind of more abstract, like you really have to search it out? And I think that I like it a little more abstract at this point. I think if I define the white shape, I think then you're going to really know that it's a flower. I like that you kind of are guessing about the shape here. I like that a lot. I do want to add a little bit of coloration in here. So let's take, I want a little bit of the yellow and the green. Going kind of right inside my shapes. There's this one. Gives it just a little bit more definition. I want to bring this one down, I think. Now I'm looking to see if I need any more definition in here, and I do have a space here that I could definitely carry up. Once this is dry, let me blow dry that real fast. Whenever you blow dry something, always make sure it comes back to the room temperature. Otherwise, the ink and the paint just really gets sucked into the page. So just be careful of that. I like that this one kind of has stuff inside. So let me do a little bit of that here. Just on one side. Give it a little more depth. And do we need to, let's do it here as well. That way they have some kind of consistency on the main petals. Okay, and I think I'm done with that. This looks so great. Let me give you a close-up so you can see all the marks. If you were inspired watching this abstract poppy come to life, please let me know in the comments. I had a blast doing this with those bright colors. I can't believe that I've actually done this with colors this intense, right? I expected to kind of mute them down, but once I got going, I really just went with the flow, as you saw. Taking it with 3 little steps, doing the wash and then adding the wet to dry marks and then doing the white pen is really a simple way to break it down for yourself. And it gives you kind of a goal of what's next, which I really appreciate that because it lets me know, okay, I'm gearing up for the marks, which is still the hardest part for me. But I thoroughly enjoyed this and I think it looks really fantastic. If you were inspired by this video, please give me a like. If you haven't subscribed, please click the button. And as always, thanks so much for watching.